From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
How the hell do we keep him in check? That's what I want to know. It took a lot of finding, and the quality's crap, but he's a bit of president in European summer, because it's feeling like a European summer on Tyneside, I'm sure.
Hey, what a night, lads, what a night. Even Rye was messaging me last night saying he couldn't believe this. He couldn't believe what he was watching. Newcastle United 4, PSG 1. Mbappe who? I really can't believe what I witnessed last night. I've seen some big nights at St James's Park. Is that the biggest result in our club's history? It's got to come close. What a performance from start to finish. The crowd played its part as well. We always go on about how important it is. War flags, take a bow. That was an excellent display last night. £40,000 well spent, and certainly got the players up for that game last night. And the relationship between the players and the crowd coming about. And let's not forget, that result last night, that result was done without players who you would consider your blue chip players. That was done without your Callum Wilsons. That was done without your Joe Lintons. That was done without Sven Botman. The list goes on. Newcastle United have just proved that they're a team, but they're a squad as well. And players who can come in and do the job that Eddie Howe wants them to do. And from my perspective, that is amazing. And this is probably on par with, those great days back in the 60s. I remember reading something that Joe Harvey said. He spoke of the effect of the crowd back in the 60s. Well, Newcastle United fans, take a bow this morning because you did your bit. Hello, we are the Geordie boys, was the message that War Flag spelt out when the Geordie boys were in fine form with Sean Longstaff and Dan Byrne, the scapegoat of some fans on social media, like we're speaking about last few days, certainly proved his doubters wrong with a world-class display last night and a goal to boot as well. But what a result. Well done, Newcastle United. I am one proud magpie this morning.
Well done, Steve, because I was just waiting for the old, Jacques Chirac, Napoleon Bonaparte, President Macron. Your lads took one hell of a beating, but that was very tame. Well done, yeah, that was very tame.
I saw all of that last night, and it was rightly so. Newcastle social media was a very happy place. Can I just pay a little bit of respect to the referee last night, because the referees have had a bit of stick. I know you get a bit offended by it, Dave, being a man in the middle yourself. But referee Istvan Kovac last night, we mentioned him before the game, and we said this guy's a good referee. He comes highly recommended. He got plaudits from the Man City Real Madrid semi-final a while back. But I didn't really notice him last night, and that tells you how good a referee he is. He let the game flow, and I got back home last night. I didn't stay out for a drink. I went straight back home and I wanted to watch the game again. And he got it. He got the decisions right. The only thing that happened last night was out of his control again, and it was our old friend VAR. There was such a farce.
Delay. What a farce. 3 minutes.
Such a delay, yeah, for Dan Byrne's goal. And what they were looking at, I beg your belief, they seemed to be trying to find an offside. The commentators were then saying it potentially could have been a handball by Jamal Lascelles, but we didn't get an answer to what it was. There was a 3-minute delay in the stadium. The stadium announcer didn't know what was going on, so he didn't even announce the VAR check. Most of us who can see the screen at St James's, because there's only one, saw that there was a VAR check. But that was the only downside of the officials last night. But Istvan Kovac, take a bow. You can come and referee a Newcastle United fixture anytime, because you got it right for both sides. 10 out of 10 for the referee last night. Well
Steve Wraith. A man cut from fine cloth this morning.
And let's not forget, this is the North East Footy Brekky. Well done to Sunderland last night. Sunderland 2, Watford 0 as well. So well done to the Mackems. They did well. But did you find out, Rye, who that player is that's going to be missing at the weekend?
Yeah, it's Pritchard, Alex Pritchard. So yeah, he was the one that Tony Mowbray kept close to his chest, and unfortunately, they look like he's going to be out for some time as well, Tony. So we've got some audio from Mogger, I think, a little bit later on. It looks like he's lost another one in Alex Pritchard. But I tell you what, you can keep throwing injuries at Sunderland, but it doesn't seem to slow them down, does it? Like, they keep finding goals just from other people. And I think they had something like their 18th goal scorer or something wild last night from a different player. And they just seem to keep finding it. I mean, I did watch, I had both on. I was watching, obviously, Newcastle this morning, just in disbelief. I mean, that Shah goal, I've never seen. I mean, I was just there, just my mouth wide open. Like, I just couldn't believe that goal. And then, I mean, watching Sunderland as well. I mean, I must say, I don't give much to Watford. That Ishmael Miller, I know you've just signed a new deal, mate, but if you call me up, because you're going to need a job in a couple of weeks, there's no way you can continue at Watford. I'm sorry. That performance last night was dreadful. And Sunderland just tore them apart. Win? I did. What? I mean, it was. Oh, I don't know.
He was hopeful. That's all.
Right. I must have had some sort of Carabao Cup, fever or something like that. I don't know what was going on, but it was dreadful from Watford last night. But all credit to Sunderland as well. They played absolutely phenomenally. They just keep scoring goals, and it's going to be a real big test for us. The Borough v the Mackems on the weekend. We have to be right up for it. But that game this morning, my goodness me, I'm in shock. I mean, I am obviously Borough through and through, but for Northeast footy, seeing what I saw last night was just, you just got to take your hat off to it, don't you? Like, it was, I mean, not in a million years would have I said 4-1 against PSG. And it was literally the, and you can laugh all you want, but PSG are the richest club in the world. I mean, we laugh and we give the crud to Newcastle for the Saudi takeover, but PSG have been taken over many moons ago and have more money, and they literally got bashed off that park, and it was incredible to see. Mbappe, I tell you, Kieran Trippier's son would have changed, I reckon, during that game, because Mbappe looked lost. I mean, the only thing they had was Hernandez goal. But this stat, just please help me with this stat. Newcastle had possession for the whole game, 27%. And they won 4-1. So all you stat hipsters out there, please get in touch with the show and let me know, because my brain can't comprehend how a team can have 27% possession and win 4-1. It just blows my mind what's happened this morning. It was last night. It's incredible. And credit to Newcastle, credit to Eddie Howe, because my goodness, has he transformed that team and got you guys up and about. And, it's crazy that Michael Carrick would still orchestrate an 8-1 win against you. But, I mean, it'd be great test when we get back up there.
Two years ago, roughly, I was standing at Molineux watching Newcastle United be managed by Steve Bruce under the ownership of Mike Ashley. And I am watching Jeff Hendrick in my midfield. He scored that day, by the way, and I was soaking wet because it was chucking it down. It was a horrendous grey day down there, and we lost 2-1, and there was people fighting around us, Newcastle fans arguing and shouting and bawling at each other, pushing each other. It was a horrendous away end to be in. And a couple of days later, the takeover went through, and Newcastle United's journey began. And from my perspective, it's been a hell of a journey. And Eddie Howe, you've just rightly pointed out, the man we need to thank for transforming the football side of things. He's taken us on that journey from those opening games where we got beaten by Cambridge in the FA Cup. Kieran Trippier had signed. I remember watching Trippier play that game, and I thought, that's the first person in a black and white shirt for years that I've seen organise. Knows what he's doing. He's encouraging players. He's talking to players. And gradually we've built a team and built a squad. And that whole relegation battle, the Great Escape as I call it, was a phenomenal season in itself. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect Newcastle then to go on and achieve what they've done now, which is qualify for the Champions League, get back to Wembley in a cup final. And this season had all the hallmarks, potentially, because statistically, when teams qualify for Europe, they always go back a bit. You find it a struggle. And I know it's early days, but we've ended up in the group of death, as people call it. We're sitting at the top of that, today. And no matter what happens in the rest of the competition, fans, young and old, will always remember last night's game, and rightly so, because it was a coming of age. It was an announcement on the world stage that Newcastle United aren't just there to aren't just there to turn up and play and be the whipping boys. They're there to compete. And
are they?
In terms of excitement levels generated, it's one of the greatest nights of our supporting lives on Tyneside. And I think only the Barcelona game in '97 comes remotely close. And even then, there wasn't that spectacle of the sea of black and white, the flags, and the emotion that we had from the Newcastle fans, courtesy of war flags. It's all new for us. It's wonderful for players,
absolutely
managers,
pouring down
for
as well, wasn't it?
But it really does defy logic. And as I said at the start of the programme, no Sven, no Joe, no Callum, but as NUFC Matters and NUFC.com said, that's no problem for this team, because ultimately we have a team now who, if they lose players, have a squad that can come in and do a job. And PSG, for me, at the start of the game, they were, they looked as if they knew what they were doing, but as the game progressed, they just looked lost. They continued to try and play out from the back, reminded me a lot of when Brighton came to St James's Park last season. With they were on a high. They qualified for Europe, of course. But it reminded me a lot of Brighton. They tried to play out from the back, and they stuck to the philosophy even though it wasn't working. And even when Warren Zaire-Emery crossed the ball to Lucas Hernandez to get that header and glance it past Nick Pope, it didn't feel as if we were under any threat. I wasn't sitting there in the match thinking they're going to get a second here and we're going to be up against it in this last 10-15 minutes. I felt Newcastle could go on and bomb on and do another goal, and Fabian Schär had his Philip Albert moment last night. He won the ball deep in PSG's half, he swapped passes with Murphy, and then he curls this 20-yarder into the top corner of the Gallagher goal.
Hey, if he'd have kept his balance, it would have gone. It'd have hit the corner flag, mate. You just look at him. Look at him.
he just had his Philip Albert moment, though, and I mean, that was remarkable. But I think for me that the highlight has to be Dan Burn and Sean Longstaff scoring the goals, and their interview. Again, I got back home, watched the interview on TV on TNT, and Jamie Carragher was there with Richards, and it was so funny. I mean, they basically, Sean Longstaff said that he'd watched these little bits that they do on TikTok. He says him and Nick Pope watch them every morning, little things that come up, the memes, etc. And Mika got Dan Burn to do his dance, which he'd done last year in the dressing room, which went global. So Jamie Carragher and Mika Richards both did the dance with Dan Burn. It was absolutely hilarious. So
should we have a listen to Longstaff? We might as well have a listen to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, this is what he had to say to TNT after the game.
It's some night. I think we knew as a group it was going to be special with the atmosphere and stuff, but I think for me and Bernie scoring on a night like tonight is pretty surreal, and I'm lost for words really. Yeah,
he was pretty short in his responses, but you could tell local boy done good and enjoying the night.
I tweeted last night that you couldn't single anybody out for man of the match. It was a team performance last night, and it really was. I mean, sitting in the stadium, watching the game, I picked out me and me mates, etc., me family. We always talk about who do you think was man of the match, and before the game finishes, and the two players I picked out were Longstaff, because he, again, last night, phenomenal performance. And Jamal Lascelles, because Jamal Lascelles has become, he's transformed. He's been Eddie Howe. We used to say that players had been bruised when they couldn't they couldn't hit a barn door. Like Joe Linton, for example, £40 million. People were saying it was the biggest waste of money in the club's history. Look at what Howe's done to him. Well, I'm now convinced that he's just done the same to Jamal Lascelles, because there was always a hint of nervousness in Lascelles at the back. He always seemed to struggle. When centre forwards closed in on him. There's a different Lascelles there now. It was a composed performance, and he was playing against one of the world's best players last night, and he didn't get nervous. He just put in a great performance. So if I had to pick somebody out, I would probably say it was between Lascelles and Longstaff for the award. Almiron put in a hell of a shift last night.
He did.
Anthony Gordon,
oh my God,
Anthony Gordon statistically put in a hell of a shift again last night. The list goes on, but it's just a remarkable turnaround for a club that 2 years ago was potentially looking at dropping down into the next division, into the Championship again. And it's exciting times. And even Alexander Isak, who did his impression of Rambo in the first half, he ended up having a bandage on his head. It
was a bad cut.
It looked a bad cut. He did his bit. He led the line well, and it's a great night to be a Geordie. A fantastic occasion, and that music, lads. We played it before the show. On the show yesterday, the Champions League music. Just something special about it. Seeing a team walk out, your team walk out, and line up, and then that music coming on, and just looking around the ground. It was, there was, people who'd never been to a Champions League game before, youngsters who'd never been. I spent a bit of time with Adam Pearson, the YouTuber, before the match last night. We went and did our bit for Raval yesterday before the game, and it was just great to see somebody like that he's a fan. He travels home and away, but he'd never been to a Champions League game at home, so it was great for them, and it was reminiscent of my time watching the Champions League game for the first time. Back under Keegan, and they're just magical nights, and seeing the ex-players enjoying themselves. Laurent Robert was at St James's, David Ginola, Shay Given was working for TNT, of course, and some great footage of Shay Given celebrating with the supporters when Fabian Schär goal goes in and giving Rio Ferdinand a bit of stick. But it's just it is crazy, and I think we've announced ourselves on the world football stage last night. I think a lot of people will have been looking at Newcastle, and the advert that TNT have been using to promote the Champions League, where the ball is opened and it says Newcastle United, and people are going, Newcastle United. Well, now everybody knows who Newcastle United are, and it's been a while, 20 odd years since we were there, but we're back with a smile on our face, and it's great. Roll on Dortmund. A chance to extend our lead at the top of the table.
I think you've underestimated what you've done to footballing landscape. For me, you have sent shockwaves through the whole of the footballing world. In terms of announcing that your Newcastle are back, in terms of being one of the powerhouse teams, you could have not done a better job of doing that than they did last night. I honestly think you have put ripples through the whole of the footballing world, because as I said to you guys before the show, I pick up my morning paper this morning trying to get some news up from elsewhere, and I've got Mbappe in tears on the back, posted on the back page, and it's all to do with Newcastle. I've got Dan Burn covered in rain, just absolutely the biggest beaming smile from cheek to cheek. It is incredible what Newcastle have done now, because you have literally announced that you are there, ready to go to take this Champions League where it needs to go. And it's incredible. Man City last night won 3-1. Does anyone know? Because I didn't, because honestly, everywhere it was Newcastle, and Man City won 3-1. It's literally changed the landscape, and Newcastle are now dominating headlines. They are dominating football. Not one team is now going to take Newcastle lightly. You're not going to see another Sheffield, and we saw with Sheffield United, who rocked up the other week and said, you know what, Newcastle are there for the taking. There seemed to be this disbelief that Newcastle were where they were for the wrong reasons, or that they couldn't perform, or that they were there for the taking. We said Sheffield United go from a very defensive team to playing back three and get smacked 8-1. We see PSG talking, the richest club in the world, talking about how they're going to use Mbappe, who is clearly one of the biggest and well-known players in the world, to tear Newcastle apart. And both times, both underestimated, Newcastle have come out with 8-1 victory and a 4-1 victory. It is shockwaves now. Newcastle are one of, if not the biggest team in England right now, and it is so upsetting as a Borough fan, but it is crazy to see now Newcastle being the top powerhouse, because you have to sit down and just with awe, because where this team can go now and what they could do is sky's the limit.
Yes,
let's put it into some Borough context here. I mean, come on, let's be a little bit rational here, right? I mean, PSG are struggling like hell in Ligue 1. Let's not give all the plaudits north of Teesside. Come on, mate, you can't do that.
I mean,
you're going to be converted to black and white before long.
No. Look, please, I'm not going anywhere. But we've got to. I mean, I was sitting there watching CBS. Kate Abdo, Mackay Richards in there at St James Park, with the scoreline printed 4-1 to Newcastle. It's just been complete shock for me today. I can't believe it. Every person has got to sit there and just be like, it's one of the most it'll be one of the most memorable results I will ever talk about in football, I reckon, for years. And not only if you're a Newcastle fan, but it'll be that. Remember when Newcastle beat PSG 4-1? That'll be in years to come. And it's incredible what it's done for the footballing landscape, because I promise you, it's literally put Newcastle back on the map worldwide. And I'm talking worldwide. Talking at the little coffee shop down here in Australia, where they don't even know what football is because they call it soccer. And I've got Mbappe in tears with Dan Burn jumping over the top of him. It's incredible what it's done for footballing landscape.
Look, it was a great performance, and I wish Newcastle all the best for the remainder of the competition. Despite cutting me in half and I bleed red and white blood down on Teesside, but no, look, it was magnificent.
Who were your standouts, lads? Who were your standout players? I mean, who did you think performed?
Yeah, I was going to
Dan Burn.
Yeah.
Dan Burn. Everyone said Dan Burn was the slowest, oldest, most incapable player, and he last night looked like prime Gascoigne. I don't know. It was literally incredible what Dan Burn led last night. And and obviously Longstaff as well.
I was going to say Longstaff
for me.
But also, I mean, let's not forget the other players with a bit more experience out there as well. I mean, the way Almiron had to reshape his body to tuck away that goal, which set the scene for the rest of the game. That would have been so easy to miss. He had to almost run across the ball, reshape his body before he made contact to put it in the far side. So there was some great. There was some great. Yeah, I mean, he had a great performance as well. I tell you what, Steve.
Shah's goal was insane.
Steve, you tell me who didn't perform.
He's fallen over. Oh.
That's a difficult question. I don't think there was anybody out there who didn't put themselves out for the cause, and I genuinely couldn't say that there was anybody. That's why I tweeted last night that I genuinely felt that everybody was man of the match. There was nobody there who didn't put themselves out. I mean, you watched Tonali last night. Now that's his stage. He got to the semi-finals with Milan last year. Tonali's had a bit of criticism. People saying he hasn't settled in as well, and he hasn't done well. But I can think of probably one misplaced pass that he made last night. The rest of it was all cool, calm, collected, and he did his bit. Bruno was epic last night. Bruno was. Bruno controlled that midfield. There was little showboating. There was, showboated when he had to showboat. He did the graft. He got stuck in. There was just a tenacity about Newcastle's team. There was an aggression there again, which there was the gesticulating at the fans. When they won a throw in, all of the stuff that we've seen become part of the makeup of Newcastle United side under Howe was there, and it was on the world stage for everybody to see, and it was there'd be people looking at Newcastle thinking we need to do a bit of that. And
Howe has become one of the most wanted managers in the world now, 100%. There's no doubt about it. Howe would be now his CV and his want. I'm talking the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. If anything happens, Barcelona, if anything happens to their gaffer, I'm telling you, Eddie Howe would be at the top of the list now. It's that much of a shockwave of what he's done.
He's got to be certainly somebody that England are looking at. We've mentioned this before.
No, absolutely.
Has to be.
I mean, Eddie Howe has, he's been asked on this many occasions, and he says he's still got work to do at Newcastle. And he said, yeah, it would be flattering to be linked with a job and to be asked to do the job. But at the moment, I don't see him and Tyndall leaving. They certainly they certainly won't leave Newcastle United until they win a trophy. Because, you know, the question was circulating last night. We got asked it on NUFC Matters, and it's not the first time we've been asked, is this team better than the Entertainers? Is this the best team in the Premier League history? And, you know, my answer is still no, because, you know, the Entertainers finished second. They should have won the league. They were 12 points clear. And, you know, that would be a discredit to a team that finished second 2 seasons in a row. And for me personally, if Eddie Howe, you know, and this team finishes second, they'll be equal. But I think if Eddie Howe and this team go and win a trophy, then this will be the best team in the Premier League era. But there's still a way to go. And I think, you know, I think that, you know, I just say it's the fact that you can bring in somebody like Elliot Anderson last night, who last year probably looked a little bit overawed at times when he got a run out. Last night he played and he looked part of the furniture. He comes on and he does the job that Tonali was doing, and he has a go and he's aggressive and he gets stuck in and he's pushing forward and he's creative and he didn't look out of place on the world stage. Nobody who came on looked out of place, and that's why I picked Lascelles out, I think, last night as you know, one of my 2 men of the matches, because Jamal Lascelles was almost like a laughingstock under Steve Bruce. We've always admired him because of the fact that he stood up against senior pros when things were going wrong under Ashley, but he's always been like a figure of ridicule, because there was always a mistake in him, and he was never confident. We were all quite critical of him. Everybody was, but last night he's captaining Newcastle United in a Premier League, in a Champions League game, in front of 52,000 people against one of the best teams in the world, and he's led his team to a 4-1 win. He must be sitting in his house having his porridge this morning going, I can't believe this. And you can see that on Miggy Almiron's face, you know, when he scored that goal last night. You know, it's like they're in a dream, because they remember where we were 2 years ago. They were at Wolves 2 years ago, and they remember what it was like, and they're just counting their lucky stars. And like Dan Burn said last night, you know, he thought his time had passed. You know, he didn't think he'd ever have a chance to play for Newcastle. He saw that he was sitting at home 2 years ago watching the takeover go through, and he went, oh well, that's my chance to play for Newcastle gone. Clearly thought that he wasn't good enough to potentially play for, you know, Newcastle in their current format, but probably felt he could have got a game under Steve Bruce if Newcastle were willing to spend the money. You know, and look at the turnaround. It is amazing.
Look at the group. Look at the being at the top of the group, and then teams that are underneath. I'm talking Newcastle. This is the group, Dave.
I know.
Newcastle United, Paris St James, AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund. Newcastle United are the top of that group.
And there was something I spotted this morning. There was something I spotted on one of the Newcastle fan platforms this morning, where they were saying, "Welcome to the group of death," and it's because Newcastle are in it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's true.
It is.
That's true. I mean, somebody put a wonderful tweet out last night, which was you know, PSG spent more time, and the media spent more time asking how Newcastle were going to cope with Mbappe, but they should have been concentrating on how PSG were going to cope with Dan Burn.
Wow.
I mean, it's true.
Incredible,
it's true.
isn't it?
He's immense, because he was. You know, we were talking about scapegoats yesterday.
27% possession.
Yeah.
That's it.
We were talking about scapegoats yesterday.
Wild.
I did the podcast with Supermat and Gibbo yesterday, and they both said that they would drop Dan Burn. They both said they would play Trippier at left back and bring Livramento and play him right back. I was standing up for Dan Burn. I says, you need to play Dan Burn. Yeah, you've got to pass. And Eddie Howe will play him because he sees him as a left back. They're going, well, we don't see him as a left back. But, you know, they will be eating a little bit of humble pie this morning. They're going to have to admit that Burn had a good game last night, and he capped it with a goal. And that's the way to answer your critics when you're getting a bit of stick, lads.
Mate, he shut them up real quick. And you know what I loved as well, just quickly, was Mackay Richards, you know, after the game, listening into their coverage. Obviously, it's a big laugh, but obviously talking to Kieran Trippier, his son still walks over with the Mbappe shirt. So his son did get the Mbappe shirt from the night. So good on to Kieran Trippier's son.
Despite Sean Longstaff asking him for it just before the full-time whistle. I saw that.
It was good. But yeah, Jamie Carragher going to saying to Kieran Trippier, how do you feel now that Mackay Richards over here kept you out of the Man City youth team? I couldn't believe it. It was such a good comment because it's true. Kieran Trippier could not get into Man City because of Mackay Richards, and Kieran Trippier is just standing there playing the absolute game of his life. And there's no way you could put Mackay Richards above Kieran Trippier after last night's performance. It was incredible. So, yeah, look, I mean, I still think Carrick would beat Newcastle 8-1 because it's just Carrick ball.
It would be
easily. It would easily tear about Eddie Howe. It would be a walk in the park for Middlesbrough and
of course
Carrick.
it would.
I mean, I mean, Mbappe's something, but Riley McGree. Do you know what I mean? Riley McGree. So look, it's just it's time will tell, but. Yeah, shockwaves. I was just sitting there with my jaw open, and I was obviously texting you lads in the WhatsApp. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't. When that Shah goal went in, I spilt me coffee and just went to work. It was ridiculous.
Amazing. Newcastle fans, Toon fans, come on, give us your thoughts. You can WhatsApp us this morning. The number is 0330 043 2002. And even though there's two Smoggies on the show this morning, and that we will be joined by a Mackem tomorrow, we're going to get Mackem representation. It is the morning for the Mags. And we'll not forget Sunderland's victory in the Championship, which keeps them in fourth place and very handily placed. And I think that was Rye there, gritting his teeth. So we won't forget about the Mackems. But come on, Mags, Geordies, the lot of you. Give us your thoughts on last night. You're waking up this morning. Some of you, probably a lot of you, with a hangover. You've got to go to work.
Sore heads.
Give us your thoughts. 0330 043 2002. Get your WhatsApp messages in.
Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the northeast, the red, the cat, and the tune.
And those messages have been flying in. Addy in Long Benton, I'll just use one word, amazing. Steve in Chestler Street, best ever Newcastle match I've been to. So there you go, that's a big one, big shout. Sam in Gateshead, we can win this thing. Let's not get carried away. And the best
Tell
one,
you what, mate, we could.
I know, the best one ever, the best one out of the early batch. The best one out of the early batch. You ready for this, lads? It comes from Tally, who just says he's in Newcastle. Does Mbappe actually want to join a decent club? We'll take him. There you go.
I tell you what, that was crossing people's minds last night. Mbappe must have been looking at St James's Park, listening to that crowd, looking at the flag display, and then watching the goals fly in, thinking, hold on a minute, I'm on the wrong team here.
Yeah, but he won't get his crepes and snails. That's his problem, you know. Let's have a bit of French cuisine coming into Tyneside. He might
Newcastle. My goodness me! Wow.
I don't think he's a team player. I don't think he's a team player. And I mean, the look on his face last night says it all. I genuinely think I'd give me Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak any day, because those guys know what it's all about. And I just think it's a credit to Newcastle and Eddie Howe's recruitment team. The players they brought in, just the quality of players that they brought in, and the mentality that they've got. I think it's that's the difference. That is the difference. At the moment and Eddie Howe's banged on about it time and time again. It's maintaining that kind of dressing room atmosphere. You saw it at the end. I mean, I know it probably rubs people up the wrong way, but the team photograph that they do when they win a game, you see that internal atmosphere in the dressing room. We got a brief snippet of it again last night, and they're applauding players as they come in, and then Eddie Howe might say a little bit, and then they do the team photograph, and it's become synonymous with our good form and good runs in competitions, and it's great. It's a togetherness, and that togetherness is there with the supporters, and that's vital.
I agree.
If you could connect supporters and the team, there's no stronger bond in a sport, and that in itself is why Newcastle United are flying high at the moment.
It's funny to say that you don't actually need an Mbappe in your team right now. It's incredible to say that, because what we saw from last night from Mbappe was that show pony, that Cristiano Ronaldo style-esque of player, which was, I'm going to take this whole team on, step through all of these and then score. The amount of times he had Oscar Dembele out on his right that he could just have passed it or through balled it to for another set of play, and he just chose to go himself, was unfathomable. It was incredible to see. And I haven't watched many PSG games, obviously, Borough through and through. I don't get to see much PSG games. But when I watch Mbappe, it reeked of the end of the Ronaldo era at Man United, where he was just, I am Mbappe, you will get out of my way. And it literally was, Lascelles or Shah was just like, thanks. Like, because he was just trying to take him on. The ball was going nowhere because it's pouring down with rain. It was a shocking performance.
Mm-hmm. It was. I can't disagree at all. And listen, we saw him. That the whole point for me was, the big moment was always going to be seeing Mbappe walk onto the pitch and do his bit. And I watched him quite a bit last night, and I wasn't impressed at all. I've watched him on television before. Watched him, in the World Cup final, of course. I mean, what a phenomenal game that was. It just shows you he's just one man. And it doesn't matter whether it's Ronaldo, whether it's Messi, or whether it's Mbappe. They're nothing without the team around them, and they didn't give him the supply. And even those little runs that he tried to make, there was touches of quality, there was touches of class, but overall, it's the biggest credit you can pay Newcastle that he didn't really stand out. Dembele didn't really get a look in last night. He was more creative, I think, than Mbappe. But I think a lot of things were overcome last night, and this is what Eddie Howe was going on about in his press conference. You have to be able to, we don't freeze in the headlights anymore. We've now beaten Manchester City and PSG this season, and the more games you play like that, the more games you win like that, then that inevitably is going to take you towards your ultimate goal, which is putting a pot in the trophy cabinet. And Newcastle now have that inbuilt belief that they can compete at this level and that they can compete with the best. And I think that rather than having a negative saying that Champions League midweek games make you tired and mean you can't perform at the weekend in your bread and butter games in the league, I think Eddie Howe's doing the opposite. I think he's saying you're playing at a higher level. The intensity is more in the Champions League because you're playing the world's best players. Then when you come up against the Premier League, you can perform even better. And I think that's the kind of performance we saw against Sheffield United. We didn't play well in Milan. We should have got beat. But we competed, we came away with a result, and that breeds confidence. And that confidence and momentum, for any team, no matter who you are, is key. And Newcastle have got that now. Didn't keep a clean sheet last night. I think it was the first time in 560 minutes or something we conceded a goal, but it was against PSG. It's an exciting time. It really is. You've got to keep your feet on the ground as a Newcastle fan. That's the key. Don't get too carried away, and Eddie Howe's got to do that with the players.
The one thing I was expecting to come out of Eddie Howe's lips after the match last night was his concern at how much the occasion will have taken out of the players ahead of West Ham at the weekend. Have you got no concerns that, I'm not saying it's going to be after the Lord Mayor's show, it's not going to be that attitude, but it must have drained the tank last night. All the emotion, all the fervour, the high press, the constant press they were putting in, the work rate they were putting in. It's like the sugar rush, isn't it? There is a downside to a sugar rush. Could there be a downside to the Champions League rush from last night going into the weekend?
I don't think so, because this is where squad rotation comes in, and this is where Eddie Howe has got players available for the weekend. He was very close to having Joe Linton and Callum Wilson available last night. I think he made the decision to keep them for the weekend. So Anthony Gordon will drop out because he's suspended. I think Joe Linton will come in, and I think Isak will be rested and Callum Wilson will come in. And Callum Wilson's record against West Ham, I think he scored something like 14 goals against West Ham in the Premier League. So he's playing the team that he loves to play. And Callum Wilson will want to get back in contention, want to be back in contention for England, because it means a lot to him, but also for the Dortmund game. He's going to want a taste of that Champions League action. So I think those two players will come in for those two players that I've mentioned. Obviously we don't know if there's been any injuries etc. last night. I mean, Almiron limped off, but he was okay. He went and sat in the dugout. But I genuinely think that the squad rotation is what prevents that sugar rush that you're talking about. I think that there will be plenty of players who can come in and do a job. And West Ham, this is a tough game, because they are they are like Newcastle. They are the unfancied European team. They went on and won a European trophy last year. They then in the summer sell their best player, in Declan Rice for 100 million, and everyone's going, poor West Ham's going to struggle now. But they've invested that money wisely, and Saturday's game's the battle of two really good midfields. You know, you've got Bowen, you've got Ward-Prowse. You know, they're on fire at the minute, and credit to David Moyes, he's done a great job down there. He's finally back at that level where he was at when he was at Everton, where he formed a really good squad, created a good footballing side, and finally he's managed to shake off that horrendous Manchester United, you know, scenario that he had around him, and Sunderland. He picked two teams who were at that time in turmoil off the pitch, and you know, it affected his career massively. Moyes has proved how good a manager he is. He's found a club which is a perfect fit for him, and I think it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, we'll come to the predictions tomorrow, but it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a tight game at the weekend, but I still think Newcastle will have the bit between their teeth, and I don't think they'll suffer that kind of after the Lord Mayor show thing at the weekend. I certainly don't.
Hey fellas, we've got plenty more to talk about. We're going to talk about the Mackems as well. You know, Sunderland had a great win last night. It has been overshadowed by events at St James's Park, and no apologies for that, but you know, it was another victory. 38,000 plus in at the Stadium of Light, watching them secure their fourth place position currently in the table. So we will turn our attention to that, and somehow, somewhere, by some bizarre tangent, Ryan and myself will get Borough into the conversation this morning as well. But we've got to do the news headlines, fellas. You know, we're 45 minutes in and we haven't even touched them.
No, we haven't. It's been that type of morning, and I love it with the Northeast Brekky show because we've always got something to talk about, don't we?
Where are we going to start? Which one are we going to start with?
Got to start with Newcastle this morning.
Okay, then just for you, a different theme tune. We don't normally play Michael Bublé, but here's It's a Beautiful Day.
So Newcastle United put in a magnificent performance as Champions League football returned to St James's Park last night. First half goals from Mickey Almiron and Dan Burn gave United a 2-0 half-time lead, and home fans could not believe their eyes as Sean Longstaff made it 3 after the break. Hernandez clawed a goal back for the visitors, but Fabian Schär scored the goal of the game in injury time to send the Magpie fans home happy with smiles as wide as the River Tyne. In his post-match conference, Eddie Howe was delighted with fans and players alike. I'm so pleased with the players for what they gave tonight. It was a difficult game tactically. PSG tried to play from the back, so we had to unbalance and settle them. We were a man for man at the back against elite players, and they had some moments when they hurt us in what I thought was an even game, but our goals came at good moments. To score 4 times against PSG in front of our supporters made it a really special night. The atmosphere was very special, and I can't thank our fans enough. Elsewhere on Wednesday, Borussia Dortmund played out a 0-0 draw with AC Milan in Germany, a result that leaves Eddie Howe's side top of Group G. Yes, soak that in, Newcastle fans. Top of Group G. And the Newcastle United under-19s took on PSG under-19s at Gateshead Stadium in a precursor for the main event, and it was a controversial goal in the second half in added time, which robbed Newcastle under-19s of their first point and clean sheet in the European Youth League on Wednesday. It was the 91st minute at the Gateshead International Stadium. It was 0-0 when PSG won a throw-in down their left flank in the Newcastle United half. The intervention of the visiting bench saw play resume quickly, but with 2 balls on the field. Substitute Tony Mendy's shot was then blocked by goalkeeper Aidan Harris, but the loose ball was converted by Ilis Arjani, and the Norwegian referee Mohammed Usman Aslam waving away protests and giving the goal. Controversial. That is in Newcastle United headlines today.
Okay, it's a beautiful day for Newcastle. Enough of that. I'll do a bit of Sunderland stuff. Why not? I suppose a beautiful day as well across the Stadium of Light. 2-0 win last night over Watford. Sunderland stay fourth in the Championship. Niall Huggins and Abdullah Bar with goals either side of half-time. Over 38,000 were in attendance at the Stadium of Light. We'll give you a slight round of applause, seeing as I'm a smoggy. The game almost never went ahead, however, due to a major power failure. The Black Cats' blackout affected the stadium on Monday afternoon. Club staff and partners had to work round the clock the club says, to ensure the game actually did go ahead. Alex Pritchard's turned out to be the mystery injury in the Sunderland camp. Tony Mowbray revealed 24 hours ago he had a major player missing but wouldn't name names. Pritchard was replaced by Abdullah Bar against Watford, but it looks like Pritchard won't be out for too long. It's already been reported he has a chance of being available for the weekend's game against the Borough. And new forward Nazali Rushin has revealed it's taken a little time to adapt to life on Wearside. The Ukrainian international's given his first full interview. He did it with Football 24, where he said he does keep an eye on the war back at home on a daily basis. Says the UK is not even like living in Europe, particularly having to drive on the other side of the road. Welcome to Wearside, mate. That's all we can say. Okay, from Sunderland to the Borough.
The mighty Borough. Good morning, Borough fans. I hope you're all fantastic. And forget the Champions League, Borough fans, because the soon-to-be Carabao Cup champions have begun to click. Middlesbrough boss Michael Carrick says their recent good form is not solely as a result of their performances from the past week. Borough have now won 4 games in a row, including 3 championship games in succession, having previously had a torrid start to the 23-24 campaign. But Tuesday's win over Cardiff has lifted us to 16th in the championship. Woo! Let's go, Borough. Confidence has been building and we're playing some good football, Carrick told BBC Radio Tees. The boys are in good form results-wise, but I've said it all along, it's not just a change in the past week or so, we've been building towards it. Carrick's side now obviously have to take the short trip to Sunderland on Saturday to take on a side in similar vein of form. Obviously, the Black Cats getting the win last night, remaining in 4th, but they have won 5 of the 9 games in the league this season. Last time Borough faced Sunderland in the Stadium Light, however, it was the time where our 4-game winning streak came to an end for the Borough, as we were beaten 2-0 in January. And Carrick says, Saturday is Saturday. We know what these games bring, and we'll have to bring everything we've got to get a good result there. We know from last year we were in good shape and we were flying, but we found it tough on the day, so we'll have to be better than that. And plenty has been said and written about Lucas Engel, but huge credit must go to left back. Despite his Hillsborough horror show, the fact he clearly wasn't the passive choice in the early stages on Tuesday night, he kept showing for the ball. He kept asking for it. And his display was a show of real resilience. Whether he starts for Sunderland or not, Carrick might well opt for Vandenberg as a left back if he is fit, but he can now kick on from what hopefully be looked back as a breakthrough night. We are very, very excited for what we have got now as Middlesbrough are starting to click. Oh my goodness. We will take heart from the fact the win has come despite the fact a number of key players were missing and Carrick was forced to shuffle the pack. So everything to look forward to, Borough fans, as we go up to the Stadium Light with a full squad, full of depth, can play whoever we want, and we're going to Mackem 8-0.
12:30 kickoff as well, live on Sky, so you will get to see it. Hey, Ryan, you'll get to see it. It's on international distribution.
Oh, thank goodness.
Good man.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, good man. Okay, so that's your news headlines across the big three. And give us your views. WhatsApp us your messages. You can directly into the studio. Quick WhatsApp text. You can even send us a voicemail if you want. We'll play them out on air. I will have a listen to them first, though, because we know what could be said on them. 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. That is the WhatsApp message number into the studio. Big question, fellas, and it's probably unfair asking an Aussie who's thousands of miles away, based on the east coast of Australia, sunning himself where it's pouring down with rain and 14 Celsius here in the northeast. But Newcastle's performance yesterday, right? You've already mentioned the headlines in all the newspapers are Newcastle, are Mbappe tears, are the English have slain the French again, like has happened so many times in history, all that sort of stuff. Does it make it any easier, performances like that from Newcastle, to attract good quality football talent to the northeast, when we know 100%. For decades, it's not London. Oh well, I might just go to Manchester if I can't go to London, has been the attitude.
100%. They could now actually go after Riley McGree if they wanted to and have a slight chance, to get some of the best players in the world if they wanted to. I mean, no, honestly, as I said earlier in the thing, it has sent shockwaves, and it would have put Newcastle on the map for so many people, so many players, so many agents. sitting there going, and they will know right now that their players looking for a move in January. We talk about Osherman, obviously at Napoli, the fallout that he's had. He would now be sitting there watching that last night going, I want to be at Newcastle. He will be looking at some of these fringe players at Barcelona, Real Madrid, any of these players that are likely to move on in January. Even Ivan Toney now. Ivan Toney, we talk about him. He's returning back to football. He's going to be up for sale in January. Everyone was talking about Arsenal. He would have sat there last night and gone, you know what, a return home might be the right choice here, and jump on that bandwagon to play under Eddie Howe. He has honestly... It would have definitely woken up and got a few phones buzzing around the world, because it just had to have. It just had to have. And the pedigree of Eddie Howe, Jason Tindall as well, and obviously all of those lads there now have their resume, their CV, their pedigree has just gone up a notch. It was a real big win, not only for what we saw in Champions League results and stuff like that, but for the ripple of football and the attraction of Newcastle United as a club now. They've got the money, they've got the manager, they've got the players there already. Now they can add whoever they want to that. And as Steve said, I think it'll be smart business from Eddie Howe. I don't think it'll be the Mbappes or anything like that. It'll be smart business. But I tell you what, there won't be one player, if they turn and decide, right, this player is our man, and they pick up the phone and say, hey, it's Newcastle United, it'll be like, yep, where's the dotted line? It's because you can't not, with the way they're playing, the way they're looking about it, looking at a packed St James, playing in front of that, in pouring rain, you couldn't turn that down now.
Steve's gone very quiet. Have you left us?
No, I'm just listening. No, I'm just listening to what Rai says, and I mean, it does have a knock-on effect. I agree. I think with Newcastle United's performance last night, it does send shockwaves around the world. I think the key thing here is as well. We joke on this show about the money that Newcastle have had invested, but the credit you have to give Howe in the recruitment, and this is the point I was trying to make earlier, is that we haven't really spent much money yet.
No, they haven't blown it.
When you compare the £1 billion that Chelsea have spent over the years to what Newcastle have spent, or what Manchester United have spent over the last decade, it pales into insignificance, because Newcastle United still have this financial fair play problem that they've got, where lack of commercial revenue over the last 14 years prevents Newcastle from spending big. But the question mark really has to be over these other clubs, because Newcastle are making a mockery of it. You don't have to spend big to achieve
Brighton as well.
Exactly, I liken it. Brighton are following the Southampton method, which is they've got a conveyor belt of youngsters that they're bringing through, or they're purchasing young players, developing them, but then they're selling them on. That only goes one way, Dave. Eventually you don't find that player. The recruitment lets you down, and you end up where Southampton are, which is the Championship. Newcastle aren't doing that. Newcastle are buying players, bringing them in. They're bringing development players in, but they're also buying players for the here and now. Eddie Howe is getting him into their their clutches. They're moulding them into their way of playing. And Newcastle will be at the point, I would say, in 2 years' time, where this will be the thing Newcastle fans will have to get used to. Newcastle may sell an Alexander Isak to bring in an Osherman. That's where we're going to be in a couple of years' time. We are going to be wheeling and dealing, and Newcastle fans will have to get used to the fact that at some point Bruno won't be. He'll be surplus to requirements, because Newcastle will be able to bring in somebody better, and that is And I'm picking those two players out of the ethos, because they're two of your world class players at the club at the moment. There's no room for sentimentality if you want to make the team bigger and better. And we're following the Manchester City blueprint. We're going down the same route as them, But at the moment, it's making a mockery of the money that these other clubs have spent, because Newcastle had proven that you can do it on the cheap. Really, you can do it on the cheap. We haven't won anything yet, though. Let's draw it back a little bit. We've won nothing. right? We know Middlesbrough were the last team to win something in the North East.
Good man. Well said.
Certainly were.
Even Sunderland have won something.
Papa John's.
in 73. They won the FA Cup. Newcastle haven't won.
Ian Porterfield, Jim Montgomery, we remember it. Yep.
We haven't won a thing since. We haven't won domestically since 55. We haven't won a European trophy since 69. And I know we all joke on about Intertoto Cup, Japan Cup, this, that, and the other. They mean nothing. They're absolutely pointless. Newcastle United has won nothing, and until they win something, then that's what they'll be judged on as far as the North East's concerned, and world football. So we're at that stage now where hopefully we can move on now, and I think we will. And I keep saying it on my podcast, and I'll keep saying it on here, Newcastle fans. Just enjoy the ride. Don't get too critical. We can all have opinions on players, but don't get too critical. And if you are critical, keep it to the pub. Don't have a go on social media, because these people care. These people are doing it for the badge. They're doing it for us, and they're doing it for themselves. And sooner rather than later, we will have a trophy to celebrate. And that in itself is something I never thought I'd be saying 2 years ago when I was standing soaking wet at Molineux.
It is the North East Footy Breakfast Show, right across the North East on the Count, the Red and the Tune. You can have your say. Send us your WhatsApp messages, 0330 043 2002. The best one this morning, I think, was Tally in Newcastle, who basically says, does Mbappe now want to come and join a decent club? He's talking about Newcastle. He was obviously talking about the borough. So your WhatsApp numbers, 0330 043 2002 to get your comments in. And fellas, we've got to talk about Sunderland's 2-0 win. We've got to, I suppose, slightly touch on what might be coming ahead at the weekend at the Stade de Lune with a bit of a North East derby in there. And hey, we're going to hit the news on time for the first time ever.
Look at us go. Look at us go.
Here we go.
Hurrah.
Enjoy.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink, Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the northeast, the red, the two.
And begrudgingly, through gritted teeth as a Borough fan, we'll play this especially for Newcastle this morning. Brian Adams, cloud number 9, here we go. More footy chat coming after this. Go on, Steve, say it. Go on, say it. You cracked the joke off here, you might as well crack it now.
I'm saying, one night in heaven, what's the matter with Jarrett?
Woo! Yes, far too sharp. I'm sitting there while we're chatting while that was playing, and I'm going, what's he on about? What's wrong with Jarrah? One night in heaven, and people. Yeah, good one, mate. Good one. Yeah,
it was a good one.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, let's kill that off. So heaven knows whether our technicals are going to behave themselves, lads, because that was spooky. You know, we pressed a button, it plays, nobody hears it. So maybe somebody's in there. Maybe there's a Smoggy in the works. Maybe there's a Mackem in the works, trying to take us off air. But we'll see. We'll soon see. So there you go. Look, it's start of a new hour. Obviously, it's been dominated by what happened in that lesser competition last night, the UEFA Champions League, and Newcastle's performance. Good to see on the fan platforms. Things like "Welcome to the Group of Death." It's because Newcastle are in it. All that sort of stuff. Steve, how long is it going to take for the glamour and the glory of last night to wear off?
I think it'll run and run. I mean, obviously Eddie Howe and the lads will be focused on West Ham now, so Newcastle fans will be the same. But today is a day for going into work with your head held high. If you're out and about and you've got a day off, sticking your Toon shirt on, or you probably haven't took it off after last night. But just getting yourself out there and being proud of your football team. I think a lot of people will be watching the game back in disbelief. I think a few people will be waking up bleary-eyed, going, we had a dream last night we beat PSG 4-1 in the Champions League, and it won't be able to switch the news on or pick up their mobile or the tablet. They'll go
the credit card bill after the celebrations. That's what'll bring it home.
Exactly. But yeah, listen, it won't last forever. Nothing ever does. You're only as good as your last fixture, etc. But we've got a couple of weeks to enjoy it. Newcastle lucky in the sense now that we've got another home game coming up on the 25th of October. Dortmund come to town, and they won't be looking forward to it. I mean, Newcastle have to go out to Dortmund, of course, and experience the wall, but they're going to come and experience the wall at our place. And I think after the flag display against PSG, Wall Flags will certainly be looking to do something similar, if not better, and try to eclipse that for the Dortmund game. But it's we've got 2 games in between that. We've got West Ham away on Sunday, 2:00 kick-off, and then we've got Crystal Palace at home after the international break on the 21st. And the games are going to come thick and fast. What a period of games that's going to be. 21st of October, Palace at home. 25th of October, Dortmund at home. And then 28th of October, Wolves away. And Manchester United then away in the Carabao Cup on the 1st of November. So games coming thick and fast. Arsenal at home then in the Premier League. I mean, it's a hell of a run of fixtures. Just want to point out as well how disgusted I am at Manchester United's pricing for the Carabao Cup.
I saw
it's
that.
An 8:15 kick-off. It makes it impossible for anybody to get to that game from Newcastle by train. So we've all either got to get a bus, we've got to drive, or we've got to get a train, and we've got to stay down. And let's face it as well, guys, train strikes are coming thick and fast. That might get chucked into the mix as well, so then everybody will have to drive. We don't know that, but definitely, but that could happen. £39 for a Carabao Cup game. You are having a laugh, aren't you? And 8,000 tickets being made available. I'm just shocked and horrified at the fact that they've priced it at £39. That is trying to extort Newcastle United.
They jumped on that. Yep. Yeah, they have. They've jumped on it. They've jumped on the Newcastle fans and the way you're going and the amount of support you're getting, and they've gone jack it up. It's 100% correct.
Disgusting, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that. And this is where the regulator should step in. Somebody should be saying, well, that's not allowed. I mean, we've done that with the Premier League. They fought hard to get this set price for Premier League games for away fans, but they're just taking the mick. And I don't think the relationship's ever been good between Newcastle and Manchester United since the Premier League started. Since Newcastle gate crashed the Premier League with Kevin Keegan and suddenly started to knock a few noses out of joint at Old Trafford. I don't think they've ever liked us. There was never a rivalry before that, but the whole Keegan-Ferguson thing really got under Manchester United's skin, and I just think that they've got a real issue with Newcastle, and they certainly won't like the fact that they were originally earmarked for purchase by the Saudis, and I just think that rivalry it's become bitter, and I think it's not a transparent bitterness. I think they do these little things just to undermine us and to upset us, and I just don't like it. And I think something should be done about this because they are just extorting football fans. But again, rant over from me. I just think it's something that needs to be addressed. But people will pay it. People will go. People will travel. People will want to go to that game. And the best way to stick it to them is beating them at the Theatre of Dreams and making it the Theatre of Nightmares. For me, if we can go down there and give a good account of ourselves and stick it up them, then that's the best way, I guess, to answer that particular statement that they put out yesterday, that it was £39 a ticket. But and I'm annoyed at that, really am.
I'm just having a look at the Palace. I'm just having a look at the Palace website to see what they paid, and on here it was £25 a ticket.
Well, that's a joke. It's £14 more. £14 more. I mean, that
wow.
It's a disgrace. It really is. They should be held accountable for that. And it's good to see a few neutral supporter Twitter accounts having a pop at that, saying that they are extorting us. I've just been having a quick snoop around, and a lot of people aren't very happy about it, so it's not just me, but just trying to take the mick out of Newcastle United. But it's look, happy days. Great result last night, and but I think, like us all, we'll revel in it for another 24 hours, and then we need to move on. We've got to look ahead to West Ham, back to business. See what the situation is with regards to those players coming back, and and then enjoy the international break. I don't like international breaks at all. I'd rather the season continued, but it's going to give people a chance to regroup. It'll give those players a chance who aren't going on the international break to have a little bit of downtime, a little bit of rest time. So for me, probably comes at a good time for Newcastle. I think if we can get away with something at West Ham, I'd be happy with a draw. I'd take a draw tomorrow at West Ham. But I just, you'll get that international break. A few of those players that need that little bit of rest, let them have it, and then back into that crazy set of fixtures at the end of October.
We got Socceroos taking on England as well in the international break in London, so that's going to be interesting as well. So we saw Australia, obviously, v England, which has been a long time between drinks, has Australia v England, so I'm looking forward to that, seeing Riley McGree up at the likes of Jude Bellingham. So yeah, it's going to be incredible to have some Aussies, and we'll see how many Aussies can turn out for the London match. But I'm looking forward to the international break just purely for that match. But I don't like the international break either. I feel like, last season, Dave, with the Borough, we had that international break just before the end of the season there, and I feel like it sort of like killed our momentum almost, and we came back from it, and that was when we went on a bit of a low run into the playoffs as well.
I think that was more to do with team selection that gave us the poor run to the end of the season, resting people and stuff like that. But saying that, the international break this time round did us the world of good, did us heaps of good.
Yeah,
and I think
true.
I think at the time I said I've never subscribed to coming at the right time, wrong time for international breaks, because these guys are professionals and they'll have the same build up to matches, no matter whether they've had a week off, they've played international or whatever. But I've semi-changed my mind, because I think that break that came earlier in the season when we were on a woeful run has done us the power of good. So look, I'm changing. Yep. This Maggie Thatcher, that lady might not have been for changing, but I'm changing. I'm not Maggie. She might have been called Roberts before she got married, but I am one for changing, and I'm doing it.
We are the North East Footy Brekky show. We do have to just mention that in the National League last night, Boreham Wood won, Hartlepool 0. Lee Unloved with a goal in the 78th minute, and that good start to the season which Hartlepool had, they just seem to be losing that momentum. Gateshead, on the other hand, obviously winning the other night, pushed up to 4th place, 10 points behind Chesterfield, as we mentioned yesterday, but Hartlepool's slipping down to 10th now, and disappointing last couple of weeks for the Pools.
Yeah, they're definitely in a bit of trouble at the moment. They just can't seem to find a win. But that game, if you're a Hartlepool fan, you'll feel so hard done by. And if you're a Hartlepool fan, please get into the WhatsApp. I'd love to hear from you, because I saw the result and I watched the highlights, and I could not believe, one, the world-class saves that their keeper made. I'm talking like this guy was freakish. I mean, Hartlepool should have had 4 to 5 goals, but the saves this keeper pulled off would have, like, if he was at Man City, you'd be like, yep, that's why he's paid so much. But he was in the National League, and these 4 or 5 saves he made were incredible stops. And then their goal was a foul. It was a clear and utter foul, and you would just feel so hard done by. But and John Askey's comments in after and post match as well were just reflection of that. We saw Nicky Featherstone return as well, but. Yeah, it was a real shame for Hartlepool United, because you'd feel just so hard done by it, because honestly, it was an incredible match that should have gone Hartlepool's way, apart from, the world-class saves and their goal being a foul, but that's what happens. And, Hartlepool aren't, like Liverpool, where they can get the games replayed. See what I did there?
Yes.
See what I did there, Jürgen?
Before we go into games being replayed, Jurgen Klopp and everything else, and look, there's arguments going on now within the Premier League across managers, about whether or not they should be. Let's as much as we might not want to on the show this morning, let's give a few minutes to the Mackems. Because, Sunderland came up with a 2-0 win at the Stade de Lune last night.
Certainly did. Yep.
Cemented their place 4th in the table. Mogga really pleased by what he saw. Really pleased because, he's beset by injuries, just like, I suppose, all 3 of the big Northeast footy teams. Yet his goals are still flowing, and this is what he had to say, courtesy of SAFC.com. This is what he had to say after the game.
I was really proud of them tonight. I think we played against a good side with really strong individuals, clever individuals, fast, direct, good football team. I felt they were. I thought our centre-halves were magnificent. I think we had good possession of the ball, controlled it really well, stopped their really dangerous transition. And let's talk about Niall's goal. What an amazing goal. He's had a tough time, in my period here with injuries and stuff, but I'm so happy for him to show everybody what he can do at his best. So Abdullah as well. I mean, the goals are coming from everywhere at the moment, aren't they? Fantastic. He's got like a jack in the box, and he had a leap at the back stick to head it in. But really pleased for them. pleased for the supporters. You know, we've talked in the press this week about home form, home record. I thought we were really professional tonight and did a really good job.
Yep, 2-0 was the scoreline. Niall Huggins and Abdullah Bar with the goals. Mogga, he mentioned it before the game. He's great, isn't he? He's fantastic. Yeah. We'll forgive him being Sunderland manager.
Rush.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. He had no sweets. He had no midget gems in his mouth when he was doing that interview, so that was interesting. It's only when he does. I've realised what it is now. There's a trend. So when he does press conferences, news conferences, sitting behind the microphone with the desk in front of him, that's when the midget gems come out. But yeah, no. Look, from a Sunderland perspective, everybody thought Ross Stewart gone. It looked like the likes of Patrick Roberts was going to go. With that, it looked like a fire sale at one point just before the window closed, and people questioning a couple of results at the start of the season which didn't go quite right for them. So people questioning red, white and black fans going, what's going on? But as Mogga, he's as happy as a pig in the proverbial, isn't he? Because the goals are coming in from all sorts, from all angles.
It's incredible, yeah. And what he's got that team going, and I've seen a few comments from Sunderland fans saying, I don't think they've ever loved a manager as much as they do love Mogga, and rightly so. He's got them absolutely firing, does Mogga. He's got goals coming in from everywhere. You heard him last night, just then as well, when he was saying, they were a tough team and we had to break them down, and he was just so pleased. And he's got such a young squad, and that's what is so incredible down at Sunderland, is they are all young boys. There's not many old heads in there. The oldest head out there is Mogga by far, and I just feel like he's done such an incredible job with Sunderland, and it's because of his Middlesbrough roots. You know what I mean? Everything that Sunderland's doing right now is thanks to Middlesbrough, honestly, because it's all down to Mogga. And you got to say, Mackems, that it's a Middlesbrough-esque style of play. I'm sorry, Sunderland. I just took the mickey. I was just taking the mickey. Don't hate me, but get on WhatsApp.
No, they probably do, mate. They probably hate you already, so don't worry.
That's fair. That's fine. I'm that loud Aussie. You can find me. I just think, he's got them absolutely firing. Such a young squad. I mean, you've got, young Job Bellingham in there as well. And it's going to be a real tough test. And I'm actually really excited for the derby this weekend, because Middlesbrough are clicking. Sunderland are probably one of the, if not the informed team of the championship. And if Carrick has gotten us and turned us around, then we need to show that against the best. And at the moment, Sunderland are one of the best because they are getting goals from anywhere. They're a young squad. They are breaking teams down and getting results. We beat Cardiff. Cardiff beat Sunderland. It's a tantalising thing now. We saw Sunderland stop us on that amazing run we had last season. And I cannot wait to see what it's like now, 12 months on. Carrick v Mogga. Mogga says Carrick's one of the best upcoming managers in the thing. Carrick says obviously he's got so much respect for Mogga and his Middlesbrough roots and stuff like that. We got Sam Greenwood on loan, who's a Sunderland boy. He said he's going to pay for his family to be in the Middlesbrough away ends, even though they're all from Sunderland local area and stuff like that. So there's so many little stories around it, and I just cannot wait to see. It's a massive test, and just bring it on for me, because Sunderland are. Yeah, they're a good team, and Mogga's doing some really good things.
Yeah, a big chunk of tomorrow's show is going to be on looking ahead to the Weir-Tees derby, and we'll try and forget the Champions League at that point in time. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned going into that game, because Sunderland are on a hell of a run. Mogga's got them firing. Yeah. They're scoring goals for fun. But as you say, that little bit of hope is they couldn't do Cardiff at the Stadium of Light. We dispatched them quite comfortably at the Riverside. So can we read into those stats? Well, I'll cling on to any fine thread that will give me positivity going into the weekend. But the key thing there, Steve, in those words from our Aussie correspondent, he mentioned he's really excited. Have you ever heard Rye when he's really excited?
Oh yes, I have. I mean, I do watch his podcast. He does have a few of those moments, doesn't he? But
hang on, just before we go on, mate. This is Rye getting rather excited over the simple thing of having a latte that came just a few days ago.
Rouse wins it back for Cardiff, and he flicks a quick cross in, cleared by Paddy McNair. And here we go, Latte laps away, he's so fast, he's a demon of speed, here's Latte, can he finish, he's tripped over, finish, Latte
Wow, he's like a dementor.
Latte! Wake him up! Wake him up!
I think you got a little bit excited there, don't you?
That's like an alarm. You could have that as your alarm clock to get up and do the Northeast Brekky show.
What time of the morning was that, right?
5:30 in the morning.
Did Doghouse follow from the missus?
Yeah, big time. Big time. Don't you worry about that. Yeah.
Sorry,
Big
Steve.
time.
I rudely interrupted, but I thought while he was talking about getting excited, we just, had to bring his excitement across the north.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable. But that's what football does, lads. That's what football does, to you.
Mate.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a
Fantastic.
very,
I was
very
just
good
talking
team
about,
at
I was
the
just going
moment.
to talk about Mugger. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you were saying, and he's this time, this tease we had Derby at the weekend is really set up nicely. We talked about it a month ago. I said, it would be intriguing to see where both teams were, because at that moment in time, Borough were on the crest of a slump, Sunderland were on the crest of a wave. But it's amazing what a month can do in football in the Championship, and I did say that. And now it's an evenly poised game. Borough might not be up in fourth place, but if they win at the weekend, Sunderland are going to be looking over their shoulder. It's one of those games, and it's that old cliche, isn't it? Form goes out the window in derby games.
Yep.
But on this occasion, both teams are playing really well. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's got draw written all over it, but I think Middlesbrough will have the bit between their teeth this weekend. I really do. I think Carrick's got them playing at the same level as he had them playing last season, and I think Borough could do it this weekend. I really do.
I love you, Steve. I love you, Steve.
I really do. It's going to be a cracker. I think it is, and it's televised as well, which means that the world's going to get a chance to watch this game. But it is good. I miss the derbies. I miss playing Newcastle. I know some people say that Newcastle Middlesbrough isn't a derby, but for me it is. I miss that as well. I miss those games. I miss the atmosphere. I miss the build-up. The build-up to a derby is always exciting. It's the media whip it up a little bit. The local press whip it up. You're keeping an eye on who's injured, who's going to be available, who's going to be able to play. But yeah, and then just that the walk to the ground when you're the away fan, the walk to the ground is it's a bit, it can be a bit nervy if you're going by train. I always used to go to the Sunderland game by train, and then you'd be frog marched up from the station to the ground, and it's just that feeling, that anticipation. There's a nervousness about it, and then you get in, and I know some people have that sick feeling in their stomach when there's a derby game on, but I never used to get that. I'd always had a couple of bevies, and I was just ready for it, ready to sing my heart out for the lads, and I don't think there's a better away end than when you go to those games, because you're singing for your club, your area, and it's there's just something special about them, and when you win, you're on cloud nine. When you get beat, it ruins your entire week. So it's there's no in between with a derby game. So I am really looking forward to this one as a neutral. Looking forward to seeing both teams go about their jobs and see who comes out on top. Who can claim that the championship cock of the north. It's going to be an interesting one this weekend, and one which I'm sure we can enjoy looking ahead to tomorrow morning with our Mackem correspondent.
I was going to say, let's not forget.
Yes,
we will be a completed team. We will be a full complement.
We will be.
Yeah, we'll have a poker hand. With a full set of cards, indeed. How many more can we come out with here? Because Ted is going to join us from Cyprus. Ted is in Cyprus. Big Mackem, big Sunderland fan. He's going to be joining us on a regular basis on the Northeast Footy Brekky. He's going to make his Weir Tees Derby bow tomorrow. So we'll be able to chew the fat over that one, definitely.
Yeah, very looking forward to it. Having a Sunderland expert in here to keep it a bit even. Obviously, we talk a lot about Newcastle and Middlesbrough lately. But it's about time we got some Mackem airwaves.
Absolutely, we've got to get some Mackem balance, and let's not forget at the weekend as well. The Cat Girls are going to be out and about around the Stadium of Light. Look for the big red card. You can also win yourself £100. All you got to do is take a selfie with the Cat Girls, get it posted on social media, and tag in the Cat radio station, which is at the Cat UK. At the Cat UK is the handle, and one lucky Mackem will get pulled out of the hat and will wing £100 into your back pocket. So that'll pay for your weekend, won't it?
Yeah,
not wrong.
Fantastic.
Yeah, not wrong.
Yep.
Right. Make sure you get around it.
We've got the small matter of can we or can we not replay games. We'll do all that and another half an hour of Northeast Footy Brekky fun coming your way after this.
Steve and Rye, the Northeast Footy Breakfast.
The cat, the tune, and the bird.
Oh yeah.
Soak it up, lads.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, enough of that. Let's move on.
I'll tell you what, that Legends show is going to be exciting, isn't it? That Legends show, make sure you tune into that because that's going to be great to listen to those lads about the week that's been for Northeast Footy.
I tell you what.
Especially, obviously, Newcastle as well. It's going to be a great show to tune into this week.
You know, we've got our own little private WhatsApp group for the Brekky show where we discuss ideas and all that sort of stuff. Well, we've got one as well for the Legends, and it was hot last night. But it was hot, full of applause. And congratulations to Lee Clark. I'm thinking, what did Clarky do? Did he pull the boots on? Did he score a goal in the last minute to win the game? Yeah, so it is going to be an interesting one. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m, the three legends right across the northeast on the Cat, the Red and the Toon. Lee Clark, Darren Williams, Craig Hignett, right here, where you're listening to this lot. Take it away, Steve.
Yeah, for me, just want to mention briefly, because I don't want to go down this particular wormhole, just VAR. And here we go again. We've got a situation developing where Liverpool now think they should have the game replayed. I think that's a ridiculous suggestion because ultimately we can't have games replayed from the past. And Rye, you've got a game you'd like to replay, I guess, as a fan.
I certainly do. I tell you what, if Jurgen Klopp gets up about this and he obviously gets the game replayed, which he looks like he's not going to rest until he does, mind you, I'm fully for it. I'm fully for it. Good on you, Kloppy. Get it replayed. But as soon as it's replayed, mate, I'm petitioning that Borough get the game replayed in 2009 where we were relegated from the Premier League and Tunkai was pulled down and it was a foul and the referee didn't even see it. So replay it and then we're back in the Premier League as of tomorrow. Yep. Okay, so if you want to go down this rabbit hole, Jurgen, I'm full with you, mate. I'm full with you. I'll jump on the back with you, mate. But I tell you what, you are opening up the biggest can of worms because I swear to goodness there are so many other teams out there that have been wrong done by VAR and by referee decisions. And I'm telling you, in 2009, the Borough should still be in the Premier League. And if you want to go down this, Jurgen, I completely good on you, mate. Pat on the bum, off you go, Jurgen. Have a little play time because then after that, Borough are replaying their relegation battle and we're back in the Prem as of Saturday. Done and dusted.
Yep.
I can't believe it. It's a bee in my bonnet, lads. It's a bee in my bonnet. He can't be seriously wanting this game replayed. It cannot happen. It opens up such a can of worms for every other result that's been defined by a referee decision, that's been defined by a VAR decision. It cannot happen in the modern day. If Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool get this game replayed, I, to the end of earth degree, have lost faith in football because it cannot happen. A result is a result. Put your big boy pants on, Jurgen, all right? Pull them up. Put the dummy back in, mate, because it's okay, all right? You can get 3 points elsewhere and let football be football because you are disgracing the football's name. You are disgracing these poor referees' names. You are disgracing the great game of football by asking for a game to be replayed purely on one challenge that went wrong. And I get it, Liverpool fans. I get it, Jurgen. I get it, all of you. We never tear us apart, all right? And you were torn apart, and I know that you don't like to be torn apart, and there's this whole torn apart thing, but I honestly cannot see a game of football being replayed in 2023 purely because of the can of worms. You've got to see this from a neutral footballing fan of how big a deal this is if this happens and how crazy this would be for the footballing landscape. I thought last night's footballing landscape was changed with Newcastle win. If Liverpool replay this game, it's even worse. It's even worse.
It's rubbish.
It's incredible.
You can't do it. Look, Pause VAR, retrain the people using VAR. It's as simple as that. Sorry, Jurgen, but you cannot replay the game. It's done, it's dusted, it'll balance itself out over the course of the season. That's it. But you're quite right. You can't just go and replay this game because because you've made the most noise about a particular decision. It's absolutely crazy. Fair play to the VAR and PG MOL for releasing the footage. We all know that they've given transparency. They deserve praise for that at least. I'm wondering, and this is something that Steve Hasty, who does the Amigos with us on a Friday, mentioned yesterday when we were having the Curry pre-match. He said, do you think they were watching the Ryder Cup? And I went, and I tell you what,
they were actually.
Steve's got a point, Steve's got a point because they'll have had a feed for the Ryder Cup, I bet. Because they were distracted. They missed what happened, and that could be the case. But let's move on from VAR. Before you
do, there's one comment from a mate of mine, and he's a big Liverpool fan, and I sent him.
Upset him.
Yeah. Well, no, but he's come out with a very reasoned point, which is, why can't we just drop this whole thing about getting a game replayed? Because if we had no VAR, the linesman put his flag up, the goal would have been ruled out anyway.
True.
Which actually is quite a reasoned. It's quite a reasoned point from a Scouser. I mean, you don't expect that.
Yep.
But yeah, he just said, well, the goal would have been cancelled anyway, even if we didn't have VAR, because it was flagged offside and the referee blew for offside. So forget VAR and the injustice, because the goal wouldn't have stood.
Yeah.
He's got a very good point.
It's going to go on and on, lads. It's going to go on and on.
It is.
But let's move on to something a little bit more light-hearted. And this really came to me after I watched Ed Sheeran singing in the Ipswich dressing room as they continued their wonderful start to the season. And it just made me think about celebrity fans and who supports who in the North East. So I compiled a little list of myself for Newcastle. Anton Deck, of course. Big Newcastle fans.
Don't like him.
Jimmy Neal.
He's all right.
Big Toon fan.
He's all right.
There you go. Yeah.
Crocodile shoes.
Sting.
yeah.
Another Newcastle fan.
Sting in your corner.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson, lead singer of AC/DC. Hollywood actor Charlie Hunnam, Geordie boy, Newcastle fan. And Premier League referee, and I saw him, he was there last night, Michael Oliver.
Yeah.
Big Toon fan as well. So there's my little list. Sunderland, Dave.
Wow. Steve Cram, obviously.
Yeah.
The runner.
Yep.
Don't know whether Brian Ferry is a Washington-born lad. Don't know whether he likes football. But if he does...
He
doesn't.
He's related to me, remember.
Oh, right then, yeah, okay. Who else is there from a weird side?
Melanie Hill from Bread.
Melanie Hill.
Oh, right,
yeah.
Okay.
Paul Collingwood.
Collie,
well.
yeah, Collie.
An Aussie, Mark Webber, the Formula One driver.
Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah. Apparently, he supports Sunderland due to his admiration for the club during the Roy Keane tenure. Apparently, during that time, he got to know Roy Keane, and he was obviously deep in the Formula One world. And he got to meet Roy Keane and fell in love with him as a person and as a bloke, and fell in love with Sunderland after that. So Mark Webber, the Aussie.
Can you go and sort him out, mate? Can you go and put him right?
I will. I'm going to have a word to him. I'll have to have a word with him for sure. He's been led astray.
Interesting. Anyway, let's move on to Borough quickly. I mean, there's a plethora, isn't there? We've got Bob Mortimer, Chris Rea,
Bob Mortimer,
yep. Wendy Richards, bless her. Who else was in there?
Chris Kamara. Is he a celebrity?
Chris Kamara. You're talking Premier League referee, ex-Premier League referee Jeff Winter, big Borough fan.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a few. I'm sure Captain Cook supported the club in his time. It might have been before we were playing at the Riverside, but there you go. We'll drag that one out as we can. James Arthur. Yeah. Not sure he's a big footy fan, but
player? Glenn
does her. Well, presenter on the Red in 3 weeks' time.
Exactly.
He's going to be presenting his own show, Glenn Durrant. And what's she called? Rochelle Goldie. young, up-and-coming, aspiring actress. I don't know if you know Goldie, Steve, in your thespian circles, but
yes,
she's going to be presenting a show on here. That'll start in 3 weeks' time on the Red for Teesside.
Excellent.
Jackdaw, I think, is the latest one that's going to get its premiere very soon. But she's been starring on Vera. She's a big Borough fan. Comes from Priestfields. Kirkstall Avenue, Lindisfarne Road area of Priestfields. That's how local we can get there. It's only because I'm a friend of the family. So we've got a few. And we must admit, the likes of Janino must be a Borough fan now.
Yeah, I think so.
Alan Shearer, of course, he was there. He was at the match
Borough
last
fan,
night.
good lad. Yeah, good lad.
Yeah.
Newcastle fan,
Big Barra fan.
Newcastle fan.
Mbappe, after Newcastle did the number on him last night,
he wants to come and play now. He wants
Barra fan.
Oh, is he a Borough fan? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, Barra fan. Yep. Now, they're all PSG players are now Borough fans. They obviously are off Newcastle for the rest of their lives.
You know, Prince William came out.
PSG.
Prince William came out publicly and started supporting Villa. So I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling Harry likes the Borough as well. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Stuff.
Tony Blair came out and said he was a Newcastle fan, didn't he? He did that infamous head tennis with Kevin Keegan back in the 90s.
Was that a bit of a plastic thing, do you think? A bit of a plastic fan thing at the time?
Possibly.
He should have been supporting Borough, if anybody, because he lived in Sedgefield, Trimden. It's more Borough than Newcastle, but there you go.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
Tell you what,
I think some of them do it for votes.
Talking about scenes from fans as well, Steve, seeing the ultras, PSG fans walking down the main street of Newcastle, flares and all, must have been a pretty intimidating sight. I thought they were well behaved. You were obviously at the game. Did you think the ultras were, composed after and well behaved?
Whenever I see anybody wearing flares, mate, they lose all credibility for me.
Yeah.
But joking aside, that didn't get the laugh I should have got. However,
mate, I was there. I was with you.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. But yeah. Listen, it was all light-hearted. I've seen a few videos going up. There was a little bit of edge to it at certain points as they were walking through the town. A little bit of gesticulating and a couple of missiles going backwards and forwards, cups, bottles, etc. Which is never nice to see. Police were well on top of it. Look, Newcastle's Northumbria police have had a certain way of dealing with Newcastle versus Sunderland over the years. Not having an escort and allowing them to freely walk through the town. And the police are there. They've got their cameras. Anyone causes trouble, your door's going to go through in a couple of weeks' time because you're on camera. They just allow it. They allow it to happen. They feel that policing people through the town is a lot more. It's a lot more dangerous and can create an atmosphere. So, yeah, I didn't see any trouble last night, but I have seen the footage and there is a little bit, but nothing extreme. Thankfully, no serious trouble. That the city remains intact. No broken windows.
That's what you want, isn't it?
Which is great.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, the police and the council gave them the big market, for them to drink in. Much like when Newcastle went to Milan, we got the canal. To have our supporters.
But you lot keep bashing up the big market when things don't go right.
We did back in the 90s, yes. There was that horrendous situation when we lost the league, and everyone conversed on the big market, and people were up lampposts, and it wasn't a pretty sight. But like we've said on this show before, it's a minority that spoil it for the majority, and that's something that we don't want to see in football, and it's not nice. Things have moved on, things have changed, and. Like I say, anybody who causes trouble in that way will always be found, because we live in a Big Brother society now. Cameras are here, there, and everywhere, and the police just film people, and go and arrest them at a later date. So yeah, but it was great. I think the PSG fans played their part in the atmosphere within the stadium last night. They had had a guy who was banging a drum. You wouldn't thank him for sitting next to you, that's for certain. But he was banging the drum all night, and he created a bit of an atmosphere. But the PSG fans were shell shocked, really. They were. Credit to them for continuing their support right until the end. And they'll have had a good time. They'll have enjoyed their trip to Newcastle. They will go back with stories to tell, I'm sure, of a good night out afterwards, and Newcastle fans will have certainly entertained them. I saw loads of photographs of people with exchanging scarves and stuff like that. So it was positive, lads. It was a positive Champions League experience on and off the pitch, I think, for the majority of people. Yep. And that's what it's all about, making friends and and keeping in touch with people and potentially those returning the favour when you go back to Paris for the return game. So that's what it's all about. That's what the European nights are all about. On the list, I also came up with another topic today, and that was just the Rangers job. Breaking news this morning. Guess who's put his hat in the ring for this one?
He hasn't,
Not Steve.
Yay! Steve
the
Bruce
bacon.
How's
put
the
his
bacon?
hat in the ring.
How's the bacon?
So Lampard to Rangers was what what I was wanting to talk about today, because Frank Lampard is the bookie's favourite. Sam Allardyce said he'd be honoured if Rangers asked him to become the manager. They're not that desperate.
Sam won't apply. Too big to apply.
Now Steve Bruce, is apparently linking himself with the job. The question I want to know is there a shortage of good Scottish managers? Because we do see the odd manager who comes down to England and managing in the Championship or the we had Alex Ferguson, of course, at Manchester United, who probably booked the trend. But is there a shortage of Scottish managers? I mean, we don't seem to have as many get linked with the big job. And ultimately, the Rangers and Celtics, teams are the biggest teams in Scotland. Brendan Rodgers has gone back there, so he is in charge of Celtic, but it always seems to be a Steven Gerrard or a Frank Lampard, and now we're seeing Allardyce and Bruce linked with the job. It never seems to be a Scottish manager. Is there a shortage of them, lads?
Now, I need to stop and I need to put a pause on this conversation immediately for a public service announcement. Do not mention that little Scotsman who used to play for Manchester United in the same breath as manager and Scotland, please. Right, now we can continue the conversation. There you go.
Okay, so Gordon Strachan... Classic. Jack Ross is another one. He came down and managed Sunderland, didn't he?
Yeah. He did.
He didn't last too long. I mean, he came. He was talked about as somebody who was going to do this and do that, but he hasn't really got a great managerial career. Is there anybody out there who you would say? I mean, Steve Clarke, he's the Scottish national manager. He's doing
Neil
okay.
Lennon. I don't know what's going on with Neil, but he's obviously been in and about Celtic for most of his managerial career. Surprised he never got a chance over in England. I think he did quite well, but you see Paul Heckenbottom as well. Paul Heckenbottom's obviously at Sheffield. I'm not sure if, but he was at Hibernian, I think. So, but you're absolutely right, because we saw Hibernian in the off-season get Nick Montgomery from Australia. They took the Central Coast manager, the Australian, all the way from down in Central Coast in Australia. So, where Sammy Silvera came from. So, I mean, if you're looking at Hibernian, looking for a Scottish coach, they've gone all the way to Australia and taken, Central Coast Mariner. So, I think incredible.
Yeah, I think the guys who spring to mind immediately, the likes of David Moyes, but he's not going to leave West Ham United.
No.
Who else is out there of note and standing? I mean, Graham Souness obviously retired a long time ago. He's somebody who could jump into management. He did Galatasaray, Liverpool,
Doug
all that
Leach.
sort of stuff. Kenny, would he come out of retirement? Don't think so. I suppose it also depends. Let's not forget the big cultural rivalry that's in Glasgow. So that might eliminate 50% of prospective candidates that could go to Rangers, because if you've got any connection with green and white, I'm sure you'd not go down too well. I'm just trying to think.
Harry Robson.
Can't think of many.
The old midfielder from there.
Give it to Willow Flood. Give it to Willow Flood.
Stephen Naismith. Stephen Naismith is around, up and around. I know he was coaching. I'm pretty sure Stephen Naismith is actually coaching in the Indian League now, funny enough. So with Owen Coyle. Remember Owen Coyle? Who had the halftime Hull chat on the middle of the pitch and sat them all down in a circle like they were kids. They're over in the Indian League now. So there's a couple there as well. So, but yeah, no, it's... it's a good point, because I mean, none spring to mind, do they? And it's, maybe there's just not enough, players from Scotland wanting to be managers. They see how tough the job is and just don't want to be part of it. So, it's interesting to see.
Lampard, is he a good fit for Rangers? I mean, Steven Gerrard did okay up there. He probably regrets leaving Rangers and coming to Aston Villa, and the time that he had at Villa isn't going to be remembered. And he's had a bit of a an up and down time, but he did okay at Rangers. Is Lampard a good fit for Rangers?
It's a tough question, isn't it? Yeah, he does. Yeah, I feel sorry for Frankie because he was obviously a great player. He's a Chelsea legend and obviously an amazing midfielder for England in his day, and he's always been up in there wanting to be a good manager. Chelsea brought him in for a short time. He's obviously he kept Everton up and then sort of got sacked shortly after as well. And it's one of those ones where we were talking about it earlier with David Moyes. Remember how we were saying David Moyes went to Man United at the wrong time? He went to Sunderland at the wrong time. It's a bit the same for Frankie. Frankie has gone to the wrong clubs at the wrong time. He's gone to Chelsea for 3 months when they were in dire straits. He went to Everton, who are in the worst time Everton's history ever. And it just doesn't do credit to his name as a manager. And if you can go to a place, where, and that's the hard thing, isn't it? A manager never walks into a place that's, doing really well, are they? Because normally this manager's being sacked, and in this case, the Rangers. But Rangers have got some very good players there, and they've shown if they can trust, in a manager and give them time, then maybe Frankie can finally get, show what he's made of. Because the last thing you want to see is, another, terrible outcome for a player and person like Frank Lampard. So I don't think he'll get the job. I think they'll turn to someone else. There's been some other names floated around, but it's going to be interesting to see who can face off with Brendan Rodgers in the next derby, because they need someone. They need someone soon.
Daz?
Yeah, as long as it's not Steve Bruce or Sam Allardyce.
The question is, any decent Scottish managers out there that could go to Rangers? Daz has joined us.
Good morning, boys.
Morning, Daz.
Morning.
Congratulations, by the way. I had to say.
Thank you, mate.
Steve got you. Yep.
Scottish managers.
Anybody out there?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're the same.
Yeah.
We're just like scratching heads here.
David Moyes has got a job. He won't want to leave, will he?
Nah.
I think it's really interesting, the whole Sam Allardyce thing. Really.
And Steve Bruce?
Yeah, well, Steve Bruce. That's surely.
These are the lads that need jobs, Daz.
Yeah.
they're on the employment line, mate, and they'll take any club that they can come their way at the moment, I tell you.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's their agents getting in touch with them going, hey, if we just say that you're interested, right, maybe it'll get people talking. So good on you, Stevie. I'm proud of you, Steve Bruce. We'll get you on the Baconator very soon, and we'll give you a job for 20 minutes to talk to us.
I would love to get him on here. I would love it if we could get him on here just to hear Steve ask him. Steve will have a list of questions and comments to say to him, wouldn't he? We must make it happen, Dave.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just say, how's the bacon?
How's the bacon?
Yeah, first question.
How's the bacon?
Do you know what? You're talking about Lampard. I would like to see him have a good run. I'd like to see him, develop his craft. I think it was Rai that was just saying that.
I'm half expecting a joke to come out.
No, not actually. Genuinely, I think there's a decent coach in there. He's arguably one of England's best ever midfielders. His goal scoring record, his experience, and he hasn't set the world alight in management.
Mate, do we have to go back to Bobby Charlton being one of the best England strikers, and he was crap as a manager?
Well, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him do well. I'm not.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with you, Daz. And I'll finish my part of the breakfast show by saying that the only way Steve Bruce can be made a good coach is if you extract all his teeth and stick seats in his mouth.
Yeah, and strap wheels to his side. Yeah, okay, mate. Yeah, we've got that. Yeah, we've got that. Oh.
So, guys, I've been checking through the record books. I haven't really.
Yep.
But, this is the first time in a long time where the big three Northeast teams have had 2 consecutive match days where they've all won. Okay?
Wow.
So this weekend, this week, all 3 teams both winning, and it's obviously that run's not going to continue into this weekend, unfortunately. But I just, isn't it just? And I put it down to this show. I think it's this show.
Right.
because we talk about the big three teams, because we're celebrating and having a little bit of a dig as well. I think it's us. I think we've inspired them. I'm sure
that the likes of Eddie and Mogga and Michael listen to this show regularly.
Exactly.
Pick up tips, tips and development points. Absolutely. No, 100% behind you on that one, Des.
Yeah, I think it's thanks to us. Thanks to us.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Fellas, we've done it. Yeah. So we've done it. So tomorrow, looking forward to a Mackem joining the equation.
Well,
Ted. Oh, what do you mean? Well,
it's a Mackem.
Oh, Daz. We need more of you.
We love it. Oh, right, yeah. Well, we've done and dusted, and if you want more Daz, then all you got to do is stay tuned across the northeast, because he's here with all his nonsense. What are the caller features?
The quiz that is sweeping the nation.
There you go.
It's named that thing this morning.
And
we've got a very special guest. We're quite an interesting show. Nonsense, Dave's call it. Well, this morning we've got a professor on.
What?
Yeah, we've got a professor, Professor Ben Garrard, who is a dinosaur expert, and he works with David Attenborough.
He's been studying Tony Pulis.
And he's on this morning. And Steve Bruce. I should have asked him about them too.
Yeah,
he's on this morning, so a bit of highbrow this morning for us.
Lovely. Okay then, and hot off the pitch from last night, we're going to go out with a bit of Robbie Williams. And let me entertain you. The entertainers are back at St James's Park. He says through gritted teeth. Boys,
come on.
Catch you tomorrow.
Have a good one.
Great show. See you tomorrow.